Hey everyone, this is Brett Favre, Green Bay Packers Super Bowl champion, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packers content. Go Packers.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us, 865-658-5824. Join alongside Tim in Green Bay, here to talk some Green Bay Packers as the looks like the LA Rams are getting ready to kick off against, I believe, the Minnesota Vikings. Does that sound correct to you, Tim? They got the Vikings tonight. So this should be a dandy here, man. I'll tell you, I'm definitely pulling for the Rams here this evening. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Who?
Go Rams, go. Let's get it done.
Yeah, and honestly, man, I think I would be very surprised if the Rams win this game. You know, I think they had to be moved to Glendale, Arizona because of the fires out in Cali. Yeah. So it's even more of just as much a road game for them as it is Minnesota, really, and Minnesota's just playing such a good ball right now. So hopefully the Sean McVay can scheme his way out of this one, right, and get a dub there against the hated Minnesota Vikings. But hopefully everybody's doing well here in the chat. It seems like it's absolutely lit up already. I know AFAM, I said in the chat, Tim, I believe he's back in the Mad Dog 2020. He was going on one here earlier, just in here. He poured a old Miriam was in the chat talking to himself. So. But hey, as long as you don't start answering back, AFAM, that's all that matters. But appreciate everybody swinging through. Let's kind of pick up where we left off earlier. I wanted to jump into the PFF grades first, and then we'll go right back to the free agency talk. We'll kind of comb through Twitter as there's a lot of coaching changes, or at least not coaching changes, but a lot of interviews being set up, things like that. I know our very own John Eric Sullivan from our front office is interviewing for a GM job. So obviously people are going to come in and try to poach some of the personnel out of this great organization that the Packers have. Obviously making the playoffs second year in a row with the youngest team in the league. And one of those, I believe, is Stenovich as well. Offensive coordinator Adam Stenovich, I believe, is interviewing with the Bears. So if we have time, we'll jump into all that. I thought let's just crank this thing up and look at the PFF grades first, if that's all right with you. Tim, anything on the forefront of your mind before we jump into these from the wild card round game here against the Eagles?
No. Let the rumor mill commence, I guess. Hearing all kinds of goodies out there so far. It sucks that the offseason started when it did for us, but it is fun to see all the speculation and all the rumor mill generating. So kind of pumped for that. We'll see how things pan out, but let's get to the grades, man.
All right, so these are your grades from the wild card game in Philly, okay? No surprise, Josh Jacobs, 91.1, just an absolute monster. Jaden Reed, I know some fans think that he is hot trash now. 76.5 for Jaden Reed, obviously before he got hurt, playing a hell of a game there. Rasheed Walker, 65.9. Tucker Kraft, 62.9. Bo Melton, 62.8. Dontavion Wicks, 61.0. Luke Musgrave, only 15 snaps, but a 60.4. Romeo Dobbs, 60.1. Let's see, John Fitzpatrick only had one snap. We talked about that pregame. Kind of weird that he was activated over top of Ben Sims. They had him out there for just one snap, so that kind of tells me that they were planning on staying in 11 personnel most of the day, and it looks like they did that. Zach Tom, 56.0. Chris Brooks, 55.9. Sean Ryan, 54.9. Jordan Love, 54.7. One of his worst games of his career there in the playoff matchup. Josh Myers, 49.4. Elton Jenkins, 48.6. Of course, he only played 4 snaps, and that's when the wheels fell off. Kadeem Telford, 45.7. Emmanuel Wilson, 45.0, albeit just 11 snaps. And then Travis Glover. I'm glad Emilio isn't in here yet. That's probably why he's going to come in late. 27.7 for his boy Travis Glover there, Tim. So anything you want to hit on there from the offensive grades from this Eagles matchup, man?
Yeah, it was really nice of Jaden Reed, Josh Jacobs, and Rasheed Walker to show up to play. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Appreciate it.
No doubt, man. Josh Jacobs, you could tell he wants this too. I mean, that locker room interview we played earlier today was awesome. He's gonna I'm just so glad he's on the offense. Him and Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft spoke as well, and it seems like Tucker Kraft is ready to take on a leadership role. He's done with the BS. He's going to jump right in there and be more vocal. I think that's huge because he does have current credibility with the season he had, which I think was probably at least a top 5 tight end performance this year across the NFL, possibly top 3, depending on how much you want to dig into it. So, again, those are your offensive grades from the matchup there in Philly in the wild card round. Let's jump over to defense real quick. At the top of the list, only 19 snaps, but Carl Brooks, 86.8. Unbelievable day for Carl Brooks on limited snaps. Edgerrin Cooper, Tim, all 60 snaps on defense, 78.4. He's not coming off the field unless they drag him off the field from here on out. I'm really excited about that. Javon Bullard in the slot, 75.6. Kobe Wooden, 66.5. Kingsley Enagbare, 66. Kenny Clark, 65.8. Xavier McKinney, 65.7. Evan Williams, 63.4. Eric Stokes, only 1 snap, 59.8. Devontae Wyatt, 58.5, but only 5 snaps there. Quay Walker, 58.2. Rashawn Gary, 57.7. Keyshawn Nixon, 57.4. Lucas Van Ness, 55.4. Isaiah McDuffie, 51.2. And Brenton Cox Jr., a 43.9. Carrington Valentine had a rough day, 38.5. TJ Slayton, 37.7. And then Eric Wilson, only 3 snaps, 24.2 on those 3 snaps. So Carl Brooks, Edgerrin Cooper, and Javon Bullard showed up big time. Kobe Wooden, Kingsley Enagbare, Kenny Clark, Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams had decent days. Other than that, man, the defense didn't grade out well, and it's kind of surprising to me because I thought they played pretty good yesterday. They're really the only reason that we were in that ball game as long as we were, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why we say PFF isn't everything, right? This is just one way to look at it. And, the grades don't surprise me, though. Judging by, PFF standards here, a lot of these make sense. I was actually kind of surprised that Kenny graded out as high as he did
Me too.
in this game. That was kind of a shock. And then Quay was kind of where I thought he would be, typical high tackle grade. He's coming off the injury. That's kind of to be expected. But Javon Bullard was a pleasant surprise there in the slot. I think that gives us some hope going forward.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so there are your defensive grades from that game. Let's just take a quick peek into special teams, see what that looked like. Chris Brooks, 8 snaps on special teams, 88.6. Malik Heath, 81.0. Tyron Hopper, 78.5. Corey Ballantyne, 71. Isaiah McDuffie, 70.5 for McDuffie. Bo Melton, 68.5. Aaron Mosby, 67.6. Robert Rochelle, 67.1. And Xavier McKinney, 65.8. Honorable mention there, Katano Ladapo with a 64.2. So there you are with these special teams grades. Man, Chris Brooks really proven his worth this year, Tim, in a small amount of time that he's with the Packers. And also Malik Heath, man, that's something that they'll remember going into the offseason. I promise you that is the fact that Malik Heath has stepped up his game on special teams too.
Yeah, for sure. And I know he wants that sideline toe tapper back if he could have it back. But real tough to do that, man. Tough to get 2 down when you're getting, your momentum's taking you out of bounds. But I think it's going to be fun to watch the battle at wide receiver at camp next season. And then, of course, the running back battles there at the 2, 3, and 4 spots there in that running back room, with Marshawn Lloyd coming back. I'm sure we'll see Chris Brooks at camp again. And then, of course, Emmanuel Wilson. So it'll be fun, man. Lot to be excited about. And, not to be doom and gloom, man. Just be positive. We got to start looking forward right now. And we've got a few pieces here. We just need to get better in a few other areas.
Yeah, I wanted to pull up Javon Bullard's PFF grades here real quick because I wanted to kind of key in on how did he fare out against the slot according to PFF as opposed to safety. So if we go over that last, say, 5-game saturation, maybe 6, he was slot corner in week 12 against San Fran, 84.9. He played safety in week 13, and it dropped to a 53.5. Went back to slot corner. He was a 30 in week 14. In week 17, he was back at safety at 37.7. And in the last 2 games of the year, both at slot corner, 72.6, 75.6. So there's no question in my mind he is way more comfortable at slot. That's what the tape suggests. And when you look at the PFF grades, it kind of feels like that too. And not that he was just like out of this world awesome at the slot corner position. That's not what I'm saying. But it looks like he was way more consistent in slot as opposed to safety. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see it right here. Just taking a glance at PFF, it kind of tells you that. Even if you didn't watch much Javon Bullard football this year, you would be able to get a pretty good barometer here. And back at safety, I mean, the free safety designations are interesting too, because he seems to grade out better over on that side. I know they're interchangeable now, but
right.
Bottom line, he's more comfortable in the slot. I mean, you can tell it shows in the grades and it shows on the tape. And another year in Halfley's system, I think, will do wonders for Javon Bullard. So lot to be excited about for sure.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't mean we don't take a swing at slot, right? But I feel pretty comfortable with Bull being in the slot based on how he finished the year. Really excited to see what he can do next year for sure. So we'll keep that off to the side in case we need to reference it again. Let's move over to matter of fact, let's go to Patreon real quick. I had a question for the Patreon group. We'll start there, and then we will go over to our Twitter handle and see what was going on there. And we'll get that queued up. We got a super chat here from Godsmack Arrow 69. Thank you, buddy. He says, the defense impressed me this year. If they can fix that clown car on offense, we'll be cooking with gas. The defense definitely played really good this year. Huge step in the right direction. In terms of calling the offense a clown car, I've got to respectfully disagree. They were top 10 the entire year. Obviously that was a stinker yesterday, but you're without Christian Watson, right? On down the road, you lose Jaden Reed, you lose Elton Jenkins.
Romeo.
Romeo goes out with the concussion. He's already wearing the Guardian cap, right? Were they playing great before those happened? No. It was a bad game. There's no two ways about that. But, yeah, I definitely wouldn't call it a clown car, me personally. But, Godsmack, thank you for the super chat there, man. Really appreciate it. Again, when you look at what we did the season as a whole, I'm not going to put more stock in that Philly game than the entire season. You know what I'm saying? Yep. It's the most important game played. Don't get me wrong. You're spot on there. But, yeah, I would definitely push back a little bit on calling it a clown car. But improvement can be made all across the team. That's for damn sure, though, Godsmack.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. All right, appreciate the super chat there, buddy. And completely agree with the defense, man. Defense took a step in the right direction big time.
Oh, yeah.
Really. All right.
That's Jacob. Jacob will tell you all about that defense.
He sure will. left butt cheek going to be sore for a couple of weeks because of that defense. You know what I'm saying? New listeners of the show are going, what in the world are they talking about? Don't worry about it. If you think that's weird, hang around. It'll get even more weird, I promise you. So, question for the show for the Patreon group. I said, which two positions, one on offense, one on defense, do you see as the biggest need for the 2025 Green Bay Packers? And some people replied, and then hopefully the ones that got deleted here, they put them underneath to make it a little easier to read, but that's all right that they didn't. Trevor Anderson says, he said trenches on both sides. So he's thinking offensive line and defensive line, Tim. Yep. Anthony in the chat says offense, wide receiver 1, defense, a true 3 tech. All right, got it. Let's see. Dave Colvin says build the trenches, number 1, defense 3 tech, number 2, O-line, center and guard, depending on who gets moved where or who falls in the draft. Love it, Dave. Completely agree there. So the trenches are kind of running away with it here, and I wanted to get a feel for the Patreon group in this regard. I'm glad we did this. Chris Nichols says 3 tech and wide receiver 1 because they won't challenge 10. I'm trying to think of what that meant. I think I actually asked him there, what do you mean by challenge 10? Draft a quarterback to compete. I love Love, but this year was really concerning. So he's saying he doesn't think there's a chance they would try to draft a quarterback if the right one fell, but that's the way he would go. So got that. Thank you for specifying that, Chris. And then Chris went on to say, Clayton, do you think it's fair to introduce some competition with Jordan or stupid to risk negatively impacting Jordan's confidence and leadership with the team? The problem with bringing in – listen, competition's always good. They did it for Aaron, right?
Yep.
Aaron's, whatever it was, first, second year starting, they drafted Brian Brom in the second round. I don't think that hurts. I think competition's great. The problem you run into is if you make a move to a quarterback, and the rest of the team knows they're at practice every day and they know that ain't the better quarterback, that's when you can lose the locker room, right?
Yep.
So, some fans act like Jordan Love is off limits, right? We've been very vocal. I think Jordan is the guy. If I had to pick one way or the other right now, I would say I think he's the guy. Is it this runaway? Oh, absolutely he is. No, I'm not pressing in that much. But that's just kind of how I see where the quarterback room is right now. Again, we drew that comparison of Favre's first couple of years with the Packers. It's just kind of how my mind fires. I want to try to draw a parallel. I want to look at a comp. I want to look at, precedent, right? Jordan has had more success his second year as the starter than Brett Favre did his second year as the starter. And I know some people would go, yeah, well, what did Brett have? What did Jordan have? Brett had Sterling Sharp, guys. Let's keep that in mind. In 92, he had Sterling Sharp, correct, Tim? Yep. I think he had him in 93, but I could be wrong. So we can't sit here and pretend like Favre didn't have talent around him, right? And when you look at the receiving core that Jordan's got, he's got the youngest receiving core in the league. And I heard somebody say today, Tim, that they led the league in drops. I thought they were third from last is where they finished, but I could be wrong there. Nonetheless, that's kind of the filter I'm running the whole Jordan Love conversation through. Now, listen, if you're telling me a Pat Mahomes falls to you in the draft, hell yeah, pull the trigger.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? If a true franchise quarterback just falls right in your lap, yes, you got to do it. People forget this too, Tim. Jerry Goff got drafted by the Rams, right? Went to a Super Bowl, got a huge contract extension, and I want to say it was less than 2 years later he got traded.
Yep.
It's the NFL, man. Not for long when you don't produce, right?
It's so true.
Just something to keep in mind there for sure. So,
and that being said, that's exactly true what you're saying. If you get some kind of generational talent that's on the board when you're picking, maybe you pull the trigger. But I don't see you making a move to bring a quarterback in. I don't think they'll do that.
No. CJN, 3-tech and wide receiver for sure. Got it. Greg S, 3-tech and interior offensive line. I'm telling you, the trenches are running away with it, man. Mountain Man Pack, O-line, D-line need to affect and protect the quarterback better. I like it. Arizona or AZ Marky Mark says, if you are comfortable with Kenny Clark being 1-tech, draft a couple of defensive linemen to compete for the 3-tech position. Offense, move Sean Ryan to center, then draft a couple of 5-position players to fill in right guard and be solid backups. Okay, so he's kind of talking about some of those guys, and that's what the Packers love in offensive linemen, right, is that versatility. So I like it, man. That was pretty detailed there, Marky Mark. I think that's a good answer there for sure, man. Well thought out. Joshua Dodge, interior D-line, interior O-line. Jason, you have to be comfortable with Kenny. We just paid him. That's a very good point, right? Whether you're comfortable with him or not, Kenny ain't going nowhere this year. I have a hard time believing he would go anywhere this year. So, it is what it is. We have been very, very vocal. At least I have. I don't want to put Tim in that box too in case he disagrees. I've been very vocal about Kenny the last 2 years. I think he's an awesome human being. I think he's a leader in the locker room, but on the field, it just hasn't been worth the price of admission there. So, yeah. But like he's saying here, though, Tim, you got to be comfortable with it, with the way the contract structured right now. So,
exactly. I don't disagree. By the way, I love Kenny too, man. But we're not there. We got to find an answer.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see him play out his career here in Green Bay, though. But we've got to figure something out beyond him.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, because that's the thing, too. Like, he's approaching 30, and he's been in the league so long. He came in the league, he was 20, I believe. So, it looks like he's younger than he actually is when you talk about football mileage, right? Because he pretty much started since he got here, right? It seemed like his rookie year, he was on the field the majority of the time. So, it's not like it's just, all right, we're pushing Kenny out there. You got to start thinking about who's going to be that next guy in the middle. Whether you agree with us that he's underperformed or you agree with others who think, no, he's a stud. You've got to start looking to the future. And we were hoping that was Devontae White. I personally don't think it is. I think he's a good pass rush guy, but he's just not good enough against the run. He's not that dominant 3-tech that you're, essentially looking for. Shout out to Greg S. for providing the dates here for the offseason. And we've got one saved here, Tim. We may screenshot Greg's. That might be even better because I've got this one that kind of breaks down where everything's at. But we may grab Greg's and kind of talk. We'll use this as a guideline as we get into the offseason, get closer to free agency, obviously, and all those important dates.
Nice.
But, yeah, appreciate that, Greg. We'll grab that here in a little bit. Dave Colvin, if Josh Jacobs helps bring in Devontae Adams and Max Crosby, how would you feel about that? He said, given a good price, thinking past the price, how about the experience, work ethic, and expectation of greatness they would bring to the team? Max Crosby, in my opinion, is a top 5 edge defender in the league. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. Tim, do you agree or disagree with that, man?
I would say that that's fair. I would agree with that.
So it's such an important position. I would not be opposed to bringing in Max. I wouldn't. The problem is you got 2 great edge defenders. That's great. But if that middle is still soft as butter, you're really missing out on being able to manipulate what the offense has to do, kind of force in their hand, having that guy in the interior to push the center of the pocket while you're continuing to move the edge defenders around. Right now, you've got the cap space. You will have the cap space, albeit not as much as most people believe. They're saying $60 million, and others are saying, no, it's closer to 50. We'll look at it a little closer, but if I had to put a number on it, I'd say it's probably somewhere between 20 and 40 is a realistic number that you could spend this year. So you've got the money there, and if you weren't overpaying Kenny, you'd have enough money to go get that 3-tech as well, right? So that's the big problem is Kenny. So not Kenny as a person again, but Kenny as the contract and whether or not he's truly lived up to those expectations of that contract. So you could go in and redo his deal as well. That's going to be the next step in this process. Probably tomorrow I'll get started on that. We're going to give you dates on when restructures typically happen, and I'm going to lay out my blueprint of, all right, here's the players that I think are primed for a restructure. We did it last year. I want to say we made a final list of 7, Tim, and I think 5 of them got restructured. So we were all over it, and it's really easy to figure out. It's not like it's rocket science or anything. So,
and that's what it would take is a lot of restructures. If you're talking about bringing Tay Adams and Max Crosby in, and hey, if Josh Jacobs can work the phones and talk to his buddies and try and bridge the gap, more power to him. But I don't see either of those 2 guys taking massive pay cuts to come to Green Bay. I don't see it happening. Maybe Tay, we'll see. Yeah. But I don't see Max Crosby giving discounts.
I wonder about Tay myself. Like, that's the one I could see happening. And we're not talking about playing for the minimum or anything, but we're definitely not, we're talking about, one of those type of deals where it's very team friendly, somewhere between 10 and 15 million per, right? And you can get out of it after a year or 2. I don't know if Tay's willing to do that. I don't. That'd be awesome if he was, because I think that would help the receiving core. And it seems like that's really cranking up a little bit in terms of people that I have a lot of respect for, former players talking about it. It seems like they think it like, hey, this could be realistic, Yeah. So, but yeah, there you go. Again, thanks to the Patreon group. If you guys want to join our Patreon group, scan the QR code in the upper right. It'll send you to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. And if you're a member of one of the 3 tiers, you'll be entered into the giveaways. I put a little birdie out there earlier. We are looking for Fractal of God, Mark Zambito, and Jacob Clay. Fractal of God is the first place winner of the autographed Carl Brooks picture. He's usually in here a lot, but he hasn't been lately. Hopefully he's doing all right. But if you guys see him on the streets, holler at him and tell him to shoot me a text message, 865-658-5824. That way we can get that mailed out to him. Yeah, Respect Orange, I haven't seen him in a while. Same here, man. Hopefully all is good there. Life can change really fast. Let's go to Twitter. Speaking of life changing fast, Tim, let's jump into the cesspool, right, of Twitter. As you can see, Mike McCarthy was let go by Jerry Jones. I sent Tim an AI video earlier that I was cracking up at. Tim said took a few seconds in to realize it was fake when Jerry Jones started dropping all kinds of F-bombs, right?
Yeah, because, that seems pretty authentic, It's not like Jerry's doesn't curse like a sailor from time to time. But, yeah, that was a trip, man, that AI getting out of control, man.
I seen it, and I thought it was real at first, and then it was like after a few seconds, this looks a little different. Jerry talks older than this now. You know what I mean? He was had a little too much spunk to him to sell me on it completely. But
right.
gosh, it was hilarious, man. So, but anyway, Mike McCarthy let go, and it looks like it was Tom Pelissero. Mike McCarthy is out as Cowboys coach. The sides couldn't agree on length of contract, and McCarthy will pursue other opportunities. He leaves Dallas with a winning record and 3 playoff appearances. That's just wild. Like, he had success in Dallas. Somebody's going to get a hell of a coach. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So,
yeah.
But moving along here, the Jair Alexander talk was big today on the Packers Twitter, as there was multiple people reporting on Jair Alexander. I got Mandy handing me a McFlurry here. I can't do it right now. I'm hurting. I'm going to have to put that in the freezer. Yeah. Sarah's going to sit there and melt. Put it in the freezer for me. If that melts, we're going to have problems. Put that right there in the freezer. We're live on the air. This is good television here, right? Unbelievable. Yeah. Tim, she hooked me up with the Oreo and the M&Ms. Let's go, dude. You can't.
Nice.
Look at that.
Double threat. Look at that. Send one over to Ja. Make him change his mind.
There you go. All right. So the news that came out of the locker room earlier today, obviously, Jair made some interesting comments, it sounds like, as he, it sounded like he didn't want to talk to the media, but boy, he sure had a second to say something, which is kind of funny to me. Rather than just go no comment and move on, it was, hey, let's get something in there. I said it's going to be an interesting next couple of months. So ML Football put the tweet out and said, breaking, Packers 2-time All-Pro cornerback Jair Alexander said he does not know if he will be with the team next year and declined to speak to the media. Jair says he has nothing good to say and is uninterested in talking. It appears his time in Green Bay is over. Again, that's ML Football taking the speculation to the maximum degree. I have been communicating with ML Football privately all year long. I like what they do. I think that they do a good job of kind of aggregating the news, if you will. Yeah, I don't think it necessarily, in my opinion, I could be wrong, means Ja's gone. But I will say this, man, the vibe you got from the reporters who were there today, man, you can't deny that there's no one, hiding any feelings that it feels like Ja might be on his way out. The big thing was that, I ain't got nothing good to say, so I ain't saying nothing at all. That's the comment. It goes, whoa.
But that's not a quote, so we don't know if he said that. We don't know if he said that. That's
what the reporters were saying earlier today in the locker room, that he said.
Are they quoting him as saying that?
Yeah, that's what Mark Tauscher said too. Mark Tauscher said, "What do you?"
All right, then bye, Ja.
He said, "What do you?"
Thanks for the memories.
He said, "What do you expect him to say?" It's kind of like Mama said, "You ain't got nothing nice to say. Don't say anything at all." Is what Tauscher said, right? So Tauscher was kind of sticking up for him a little bit, like, "Hey, at least he didn't say anything negative. He just didn't want to talk."
Yeah, but to sit there and say, "Well, I ain't got nothing nice to say," well. That's it's not exactly a good approach, but it's typical Jair swag right there for sure. Doesn't surprise me, but I mean, if that's his attitude, I think this ML Football report is pretty accurate then, right? I mean, it would look to appear the writing is on the wall, and it's Jair season is over in Green Bay. It looks like. So hey, more cap room, right? What are you going to do?
It's so interesting how. You had to. I guess the writing was on the wall. And here Holmes says, "Yeah, Wildy reported it first, and I heard it on the Wildy and Tausch show, and then Tauscher made a comment about it." It's one of those things where, obviously Ja hasn't been on the field, and the fans have gave him hell over that. There's no two ways about it, right? There's been a lot of conversation about, man, we're paying him a lot of money to never be available. I don't think Ja at any point faked any injuries, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
What this feels like to me, Tim, is kind of straightforward with what we talked about a couple weeks ago. When I was asked about it, I said there'll have to be a restructure done. Kind of makes me wonder on the exit interview if they didn't go to him and go, "Hey, we're going to be in contact with your agent. We're going to do some kind of restructure."
And he was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah. I ain't got nothing else to say. You know what I mean? So, interesting, right?
Well, we got our answer then, because they're not bringing him. They're not going to have him in Green Bay next year if he doesn't restructure the deal. We know that, right? I mean, we haven't heard that officially, but again, read between the lines, right? I don't see them letting them play it out,
Yeah, it sucks, man, because we're saying it like he's gone. Watch him be back next year. It'd be hilarious, right?
That's why I kind of keep saying this, because I always get proven wrong. So I'm hoping that maybe I am, because you can't just,
Tim said, I'm going to do that reverse psychology.
Yeah,
I'm
reverse
going to say he's gone because I
psychology
want him back. Right. Listen, he's a great football player. It's obvious his teammates love him. There's no denying that. The dude brings that energy, brings that spark. When he's healthy, he's one of the best in the game. But, man, it's just availability and accountability, accountability, you know what I'm talking about, the suspension, right? Availability, It's the injuries that's piled up. It just sucks because he's such a talented dude. And he's from Carolina, right, Tim? Am I thinking right?
Charlotte, Charlotte.
Yeah. So wouldn't be surprised if, that's one of the first names to pop up is to go home, play for the Panthers, try to turn that around. So who knows, though? Again, this is all speculation and everything that came across the board earlier today. If anybody heard anything different on Jair, let me know. But it was very interesting for sure. Now, also in the cornerback room, let's just go ahead and hit on this while we can. Matt Schneidman tweeted this out, a quote from Keyshawn Nixon after a season with the new kickoff. Quote, "I don't really want to do it no more. There's going to be talks with the coaching staff and stuff like that, but I think it's over with for me. Quote, I want to be cornerback one. Cornerback one is not doing kick returns. That's just what it is." So another interesting comment from the cornerback room there. I'm gonna get your take on this before I give my take, Tim, because I don't want to sway you in any direction. How does that feel to you? Like when you read that, how are you reading into that, man? And again, it's just a quote. If you hear him say it, you may feel a little different. We're reading it in text, right? And I think it's scientifically proven that 92% of communication is lost in text message. So that's essentially what we're doing is reading the text, right? What do you think about this here, man?
I mean, it's tough, man. It doesn't give me good vibes at all. That's a, attitude kind of thing. I want to be CB1. CB1's not doing kick returns. That's just what it is. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of guys who say, hey, wherever my team needs me, that's where I'll play. Yeah. And I don't really want to do it no more. All right. Well, you're going to have to do whatever the hell the staff tells you to do, otherwise find another team to play on, I guess. I mean, I don't know. This looks crazy, man, and I know, hey, we're 24 hours off of a, season-ending loss. The piss is still hot. So, it doesn't surprise me that guys are frustrated or whatever, but, I don't like that attitude at all. And and I think Keyshawn had a hell of a season on the boundary. He certainly has made a case for himself to be CB1. I feel like Carrington Valentine's made a pretty good case for himself to be CB1 going forward. But I don't know, man. That's not the Packer way, man. I don't like that vibe. I'm not feeling that.
It's like you've got two different. I don't want to say two factions because I don't think the locker room's divided by no imagination here, but you do got people like Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney and these guys that are all about, hey, the window's open. Let's go get this. Let's do what we got to do for the team. And then you got this other side that's just kind of all about them,
Yeah.
And this is just text, so we got to be careful and not overreact. But if you read the quotes for what they are, like Joseph said exactly, Tim, this ain't Green Bay talk. Bye, Felicia.
Yeah. Bye, Felicia.
And then you got Tucker Kraft today who made a comment. If I can find it here. Yeah, here we go. Doug said, Doug said in the chat here, Kraft said the team needs to, quote, wake up. It kind of feels like you got this Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed. You guys see Jaden Reed trying to get everybody fired up on that play? Like, he wanted that game so bad last night, so bad. And then fast forward, look, Keyshawn Nixon fumbled. He got rocked. Should have been a penalty. And like he said, he recovered the fumble. We talked about that. Just a bad break. But then later in the game, you get that little throw out of bounds where he throws Saquon down. It's like, come on, man, what are you doing? And then on the other side, you've got Jaden Reed trying to get the organization fired up, trying to get the team fired up. Hey, look, let's get this going. Josh Jacobs put his damn heart on the field and left it there. right?
Yep.
We know Tucker Kraft does every single week.
And everyone's favorite, redheaded stepchild of the mix, Quay Walker, gritted through injury in this game and left it all out on the field. People love to drag Quay all year long, but, he didn't have a problem doing what was asked of him,
And you got, the young Edgerrin Cooper. We'll get to his tweet here in a minute, or his Instagram story he posted. It kind of feels like a little changing of the guard for the youngest team in the league, which is odd because you would think, let's keep this core together and let's add a few veterans to it. But I don't know, man. There's a couple, 2 or 3 apples in the group that's kind of like, hey, what do you mean by that? Like, I wanted to get your take because I didn't want to sway you in any way. When I heard I want to be cornerback 1 and cornerback 1 and not doing kick returns, that makes me want to go get the hell out of here.
Hey, take a bunch of fresh fruit and vegetables and put them next to some old fruit and vegetables. The new stuff's going to get rotten. It's going to happen. And if you've got this type of attitude in your locker room, maybe it is time. It doesn't look good. I've always loved Keyshawn. I've always had a lot of respect for him, but this type of talk is crazy to me. This is crazy. And I'm just going to chalk it up to postseason ending loss frustration. And hopefully that this is all this is. It's just locker room talk, and we'll see what happens going into the off season here.
Yeah, definitely. Brambo in the chat says Quay saved us a timeout by fighting through a play, then going down.
Yep.
Great point. Quay, there's never been a doubt in my mind that Quay's heart isn't all the way in it. He's underperformed in my opinion, but damn, when he got ejected there his rookie year, to see how distraught and upset he was at himself for making that mistake, like you could tell he wants it. Yeah. He wants it bad. So I can work with somebody like that. I can't work with someone that says, no. You know what this is the equivalent to, in my opinion, this whole kick return. CB1 doesn't do kick returns. This is the equivalent to Quay Walker or Edgerrin Cooper going, I'm middle linebacker 1. I don't play special teams.
Yeah.
Do you know what would happen on Twitter if those guys said that? Like, seriously.
Yep.
Instead, you've got those guys that want to contribute any way they possibly can, right? So, it's just tough, man. Tough look for sure.
Maybe it's time to hit Keyshawn up for a restructure.
Yeah, I mean, again, hopefully this all simmers down because Keyshawn, I think he played a vital role this year, me personally. Do I think he's a number 1 corner? I do not believe that, me personally.
Well, here's the other thing. We're getting all kind of upset about kick returns, right? I mean, there might not be kick returns in this league in a couple of years, so we might be arguing over nothing here.
Definitely. Drew D says, it seems mostly like the cornerback room that has their own me-first culture. And, it's a great point. And what I immediately think of is who's the leader in that cornerback room? Like, who is the leader? You got these little factions, and you could say the DBs as a whole. Obviously, it's Xavier McKinney, right? But I just think back to everything that happened over the last couple of years, and Ja, popping off with the media, popping off with the coaches, and then him making himself a captain and getting suspended. And then we had all this question marks about the injury and this and that. It's just always centered around conversation about Jair Alexander. And then I think of Evan Williams punching that ball out earlier in the year, going to the sideline like, hey, I've done this before, act like you've been there type. And Ja comes over and is like, you got to go down and celebrate with us. You got to go. And it's like maybe Evan Williams is trying to get in Xavier McKinney's hip pocket like, hey, let's change this thing because the defense, hasn't been what it needed to be, at least last year, So they're trending in the right direction. Maybe Jeff Hafley gets a hold of these guys and massages it to the point where it's not even an issue. Maybe we look up training camp and every one of these dudes are back and they got the best attitude they've ever had. It just seems like it's trending in the opposite.
Nip this crap in the bud, man. Don't talk about family business outside of the family home. That's just that's crazy, man. That's like that's childish. It's what it is. I want a cookie. Give me a cookie. He got a cookie. Why don't I get a cookie? You don't do that, man. I mean, that's you're speaking to a room full of people that love to quote anything you say, and you just gave them a gem right here to run with. So it's not a good look, man. Even if that's how you feel, I can respect if that's how you feel, but to say it, within earshot of a reporter is a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, agree. Greg Rice says, I do not see Nixon or CV as cornerback 1. I could see Carrington potentially potentially growing into that role, but I completely agree, Greg. Right now, neither of those guys are cornerback one. Jair is when he's on the field, but again, man, it's starting to feel like that ship's kind of sailed, and I wonder if there's been conversation behind the scenes of, hey, look, we got to restructure this thing, you know. Joe in the chat, can anyone answer why Reed couldn't just get x-rays, see no serious damage, pop the shoulder, and get back into work? A med school student can spot and fix a dislocated shoulder. Yeah, Joe, I think that the doctors on the Packers staff got a good handle on that. This isn't 1983, you know.
Yeah.
I grew up watching that football, and it happened. I remember Emmitt Smith with the shoulder and that famous game, but it's 2024, 2025 now. Different era, right? I have a hard time believing that the coaching staff didn't know what was going on, and that's why. Oh, Hart, today we could have just popped that thing back in place.
I don't think that was the case.
I don't either.
He probably failed the mobility test instantly when they walked.
He was wearing a sling today.
That's what I'm saying. So if it's that obviously that bad, they're not gonna risk it.
Yeah. And Jaden Reed was, I don't care what anybody says, your best receiver this year.
Yep.
People can hate on him all they want. I'm not saying Joe's hating on him. Don't take that the wrong way, but people hate on him all they want. His numbers increased from last year on less targets.
Yep.
Like this dude balled his ass off this year, right? Is he a true number one? He's a slot corner. Nobody's going to look at a slot corner as a true number one. A true number one, and everybody's got different definitions. My definition is kind of that Bill Walsh, Michael Lombardi, Bill Belichick type. A true number one tilts the defense. And the closest thing we've got to that on the roster, in my opinion, is Christian Watson. But again, Christian does not completely tilt the defense. He'll warrant a little extra attention, but he does not do what a true number one does, right? And our offense really isn't built for a true number one. Can you use one? Absolutely. Anybody could use one, right? But I don't think this offense is really built that way, to be honest with you. So Jason Y with the super chat. Thank you, Jason. He says, I have to put this on Matt LaFleur. He's a great play designer, but not a leader of men yet and way too emotional. That's been a big conversation this year, Jason. I love Matt LaFleur. I'm a big Matt LaFleur fan. I think Matt LaFleur should be the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. I think I'm glad that he's the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, but I'm not going to BS. I think he is too emotional. And when I say emotional, I don't mean like there's nothing wrong with emotion. People will try to gaslight you and go, every head coach is emotional. That's true. You know what we're talking about. When things don't go right, how many coaches do you see on the sideline throwing a temper tantrum, right? Can't do it. And as a fan, I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, that's a bad look. If it's a bad look for me watching it on TV, you think the players don't pick up on it.
Yep.
And then you got to step back as a fan, Tim, and go, I've never played in the NFL. What do former players say? Mark Chmura, Mark Tauscher, former players are going, this ain't good. He needs to control his emotions.
We don't even need to talk to those guys. We can look at the guys playing undisciplined on the field.
Bingo.
And see it right there.
Yeah. That's to me, that's his major downfall. That, and the other thing is when you're emotional, I think that's how you're getting into a lot of first down pass calls is because it's that first drive didn't go the way we wanted to go. Well, damn it, I got to show them now. All right, let's empty the clip. Let's go. Yep. Let's run this, this, and this. I think that comes into play a little bit. When it works, we're not going to talk about it, right? But when it don't work, boy, the cameras are all over him and showing that emotion for sure.
I agree 100%. The good news about this is I think it's something that he can work on. I really do. And I think it's something he's probably aware of.
I guarantee it. Yeah. The other thing, too, is there's multiple types of emotion. Let me tell you an example of good emotion that, in my opinion, Matt LaFleur showed this year. That is when the officials didn't let him call the timeout, right? Him running on the field and he ended up getting a penalty for it, right? Some would say, well, that's telling his team it's okay to get a penalty. I think that also tells his team, look how much it means.
Yep.
He's going to bat for us over there right now with the officials. I need to up my game. Coach's head's in the game right here. He wants this thing more than anybody, right? It's the pouty stuff is what I think players kind of look at and go, yeah, that's a bad look.
And it's also contagious. They may look at it and take some of that on too,
Absolutely.
Wasn't a good look for TJ Slayton on the sideline. after that foolish personal foul penalty,
And you notice TJ was barking right back at him, wasn't he?
Yeah, and that's not a good look either.
Not a good look.
Yeah.
Jason, thank you for the super chat, bud. Appreciate you. And listen, this may seem all negative and everything, but this is the time to talk about it, man. You got to get this stuff cleaned up right now, right? When you start to construct this roster, there's many people showing their hand right now. Many players are tipping their hand right now, and when they go to sit down and really truly talk as an organization, Mark Murphy, which it's not Mark Murphy now, it's going to be, I've already forgot his name, our boy. Help me out here, Tim, the new president. Did you forget it too?
Oh, you're talking about Ed Policy.
Ed Policy, Matt LaFleur and Brian Goody can sit down. Don't think for a second they're not going to mention. And what was those comments that Keyshawn made in the locker room? That stuff's going to get brought up. I promise you. So
yeah, but you know what? A few months from now, it's pretty easy for a guy to just say, "Hey, man, I was heated after that loss.
Absolutely.
I shouldn't have said that. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help this team." I'm sure everyone will say the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, no, that's a great point too, man. So that concludes our Dr. Phil version of Packers Total Access. That'll do it for hour one. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you on the other side for hour two. We appreciate y'all.